Is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Welcome in to Reaction Monday here on Main Street Sports, today presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton coming to you on this beautiful, beautiful Monday. And once again, for the sixth time this year, I'm wearing the orange and white checkered shirt. That means Tennessee got a win on Saturday, and this time it was a huge one. And luckily, I'm still wearing a shirt, which can be a little different from other times. So there's that. Mo, what's going on, man?
It's Monday.
It is. In fact, we are efforting to get to Mayor John Cooper and Tennessee Titans, who are about to hold a press conference here. And it looks like Mayor Cooper is planning to go live on his Facebook page here momentarily, at least per his tweets. So we're going to get to that. First and foremost, it looks like it's going to be a very, very exciting press conference. If you are a fan of if you're a fan of the Titans and getting a new stadium in,
it's coming right up.
There we go, in Nashville. So have we?
Good afternoon.
There we go. Let's go to it now.
Few housekeeping items before we begin. I'm TJ with the Mayor's Office. Really appreciate everyone being here on such short notice. You photographers who are here, and for any of the broadcast cameras who would like to, the mayor is going to sign a letter to the Sports Authority and to the council that will accompany the full term sheet. You're welcome to follow us out this door following the press conference and get B-roll in the mayor's conference room of that happening. So for those photographers and video cameras, feel free to follow me right after the press conference. And with that, I will hand it over to Mayor Cooper.
Well, thank you. It's good to see the Vice Mayor here and the chairman of our 5 committees that are going to principally undertake the review of the work that we're going to be talking about today. Good afternoon. Now, over the past 2 years, I've worked with the Tennessee Titans and our partners at the state to find a way to meet our city's current stadium lease obligation. And let me spend a moment to talk about our current lease. Under the original 1996 lease for Nissan Stadium, Nashville taxpayers are on the hook for stadium maintenance and improvements to keep that facility in first-class condition. Now, the facility has fallen out of that condition, and the current lease runs until 2039. Now, Nissan Stadium requires substantial improvements to fulfill the legal obligation to the team under the current lease. And it's well known that we initially pursued a renovation strategy, believing that simple renovation would be financially more prudent. But we learned during this process that a renovation would be much more expensive than we initially thought. And to tell us how expensive a renovation would be for taxpayers, we worked with the Metro Council to hire our own independent consultant, and that is Venue Solutions Group. And I can report today that VSG estimates that Metro would owe the Titans between $1.75 billion and $1.95 billion over the remaining 17 years of the current stadium lease. Now, to be clear, those would be general fund dollars that could otherwise support essential priorities like our public schools and first responders. And as I said in a public letter 5 months ago, I found it simply unacceptable to ask Nashville residents to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for a sports stadium. 26 years ago, Nashvilleians made a smart bet by paying to build an NFL stadium to recruit the Titans to town, but things are different in 2022. We are in a new era, and we can negotiate a better deal. And asking Nashville residents to again shoulder the burden of paying for a stadium is not something that I was willing to do. So rather than proposing Nashville residents pay to renovate and maintain the current stadium, we pursued other options that will shift the cost off of Metro's general fund. Now, to remind you of our goals for this process, let me go over the commitments I made to Nashvilleians back in May. Number one, we wouldn't raise sales tax or property tax to pay for a new stadium. Number two, the Titans and visitors to the stadium campus would be the primary funding source for stadium construction. Number three, the Titans, not taxpayers, would cover any construction cost overruns. Number four, unlike in the current lease, the Titans would take on the financial responsibility of maintaining the stadium. Number five, we would not sell any public land to finance the stadium. Number six, the campus would provide high-paying jobs, green space, and affordable housing. And finally, number seven, any new agreement would result in the Titans staying in Nashville for the long haul. Now, after months of negotiation, I can proudly say that we delivered on every one of those commitments. We've agreed to terms on a new stadium using funds that cannot be spent elsewhere on our core priorities like education and community safety. By state law, the funds in this new stadium lease are not available for other city purposes. And doing nothing was not practical or responsible option under the lease. And renovating the current aging stadium proved financially irresponsible. So we're proposing a new stadium paid for by the team, the state, tourists, and spending around the stadium, not by your family. Now, using this financial strategy, we're getting a much better stadium and a much better deal. And now a word about the new stadium. The proposed stadium would be built directly east of Nissan Stadium on what is currently parking lots. Metro would regain control of 66 acres of land, including the existing Nissan Stadium site. And under the current lease, it would have remained as a parking lot for the next 17 years. And now it can serve the whole city with a large park, greenways, affordable housing, and a north-south transit spine that will be a huge help to anyone getting around in our inner loop. And all this is made possible without a general fund subsidy or selling or gifting any public land. All stadium-related infrastructure costs are included in this proposal, and any cost overruns are covered by the team. I am grateful to Amy, Adam Strunk, Burke Nighthill, and the entire Titans organization for their commitment to Nashville. Amy is a terrific partner for our community, and residents' tax dollars can now go to core city services instead of covering future ongoing maintenance on a new stadium. As part of this proposal, the Titans will also waive the $32 million of outstanding maintenance bills owed on Nissan Stadium, and the team has agreed to pay off the remaining $30 million in stadium bonds. Now, today's new stadium proposal would not be possible without Governor Lee and our valued partners in the state legislature. Governor Lee and the legislature recognize the Titans' enormous contributions to the state's economy. And thank you to the state leadership who made this possible with a critical grant and by allowing future sales taxes generated on this new campus to fund the stadium. And I want to recognize the strong support of our hospitality industry. Hotel guests to Nashville will help pay for this project. And as was the case with bringing Oracle here, the Titan Stadium project is a great example of a public-private, state, and local partnership coming together to secure a big win for Tennesseans. Together, we're making sure that the Titans stay in Tennessee for generations to come. And I'm proud to send to the Sports Authority and to the Metro Council a proposal that relieves a nearly $2 billion burden on Nashville taxpayers. We're also getting 66 acres of land under the current lease back to the city. And we're building a world-class asset for Nashville, owned by Metro, without relying on the city's general fund or any general obligation debt. We've gotten taxpayers out of the stadium maintenance business, and by ripping up the old lease and working with our partners, we're focusing your tax dollars on what really matters, serving your neighborhood. Thank you.
I think Titans president's coming up now.
Good afternoon. I'd like to begin by acknowledging Mayor Cooper's dedication to this project. Throughout our discussions, his primary focus was finding the best solution for the residents of Nashville and Davidson County, and we couldn't be more appreciative of his efforts. Mayor Cooper, thank you for your collaboration with us over the past 2 years and for your dedication to the people you serve. I'd also like to thank the state of Tennessee and the Tennessee State Legislature for their support. Know that we fully understand what an honor and responsibility it is to represent Nashville and Tennessee. And in everything we do, we will strive to continue to make this community proud. Our history in Nashville started in 1995 with one simple phone call from our offices in Houston to Nashville City Hall. Our founder, Bud Adams, had made the decision to move his NFL team from Houston, and even after hearing compelling pitches from several interested cities, Mr. Adams had his heart set on one place, Nashville, Tennessee. After studying the potential relocation markets, he immediately felt a deep connection with Nashville. He was impressed by the people who live here. They were friendly, hardworking, and served each other well. He sensed the pride that people felt for their city and state. He wanted his team to be a part of this remarkable community. So Mr. Adams asked his assistant to place that phone call to connect him with city officials so he could express his sincere interest in exploring the possibility of moving his NFL team to Nashville. Technically speaking, a second phone call from Houston to Nashville was probably the more important phone call. You see, that first phone call ended abruptly when the receptionist at City Hall hung up on Mr. Adams' assistant, thinking it surely must be a prank call. Thankfully, his assistant was resilient and apparently convincing in the end, because she eventually managed to connect Mr. Adams with Nashville officials, and the rest is history. We've come a long way since 1995. In 1995, the idea of Nashville being an NFL city was beyond audacious. No one could have imagined that day the community galvanizing moments this partnership would create for our region. From a delirious crowd celebrating the Music City Miracle during the 1999 playoffs, to 600,000 people attending one of the most dynamic events in the history of professional sports during the 2019 NFL Draft. Our mission statement is to win, serve, and entertain. And it has been our great honor to live out those three pillars in Nashville, Tennessee for the past 25 years. And now, here we are in this moment, announcing that we've agreed to terms that will recommit this organization to Nashville for another generation. We are humbled by the way the city and state have wrapped their arms around us, thankful for what has been built so far, and excited to be standing at the doorstep of the next era of the Tennessee Titans. As Mayor Cooper outlined, the current stadium lease was a significant financial liability for Nashville. That was a reality that neither the city nor the team was willing to accept. This new agreement is the win-win-win scenario we always believed was possible. Nashville's new stadium will be a game changer for the city and the community. Using fan and resident input, we are designing a stadium inspired by the character and spirit of Tennessee. The new stadium will be capable of hosting the world's greatest events, such as the Super Bowl, the Final Four, and college football playoffs. The stadium will enhance the national and international reputation of our great city and state and generate billions of dollars in economic activity for local businesses and government budgets. More importantly, we are committed to designing a facility with spaces to serve our neighbors throughout Nashville and Tennessee with regular community programming. This stadium will be the people's house. Schools will have educational opportunities and rooms designed for that purpose. High school football teams will play their biggest games on the same field as their NFL heroes. Job fairs, nonprofit fundraisers, conferences, and training seminars can take place year-round in any type of weather. The new stadium will powerfully stimulate our local and regional economy and create thousands of jobs, both during construction and for the long term. It will proudly represent our city and state during internationally celebrated events we could have never dreamed of hosting 25 years ago. The agreement presented today is the product of a tremendous amount of work and represents input from stakeholders and residents across the state. We look forward to the process ahead with Metro City Council, the Sports Authority, and members of our community as these discussions continue. This agreement represents a generational moment for Nashville, for Tennessee, and for the Tennessee Titans. The past 25 years have been transformational for this region and our organization, and we believe the best is yet to come. Thank you.
We have time for a few questions. Go ahead.
Hotel rooms are more expensive, sometimes just as expensive.
All right, there you have it. It appears that Nashville is getting a new stadium on the East Bank, and man, that sounds like a dream come true for everybody involved, because let's face it, Nashville taxpayers could not afford to make Nissan Stadium or Nissan Stadium or whatever John Cooper called it a first-class facility the way it currently sits. So, Mo, your thoughts?
And I think the takeaway is that it's going to lessen the financial burden on Metro Nashville, and a lot of people need to hear that. I think the takeaway is also that the money that will be used is money that would not have been available for any other city needs, such as education or public transportation. And
Right.
again, a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Because the money that's going towards this new stadium isn't money that's coming away from something else Nashville needs. People need to hear that.
No, I think that is the absolute key here, because every time you get on Twitter, every time you get on social media, all you're hearing is, we don't have money for transit, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that, but we've got money for a stadium.
Exactly.
Well, yes and no. I mean, tourism dollars almost, and I think this is a state law in most every state, that tourism dollars have to go back into tourism, and it has to go into funding for, things to keep the tourism industry going. Because in Nashville, let's face it, I mean, it is probably our number one industry. And the fact is that this is only going to make it bigger and better. Is that a good thing? Some would tell you no. Someone would say, maybe we don't need any more tourism.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, I think that's kind of counterintuitive, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I don't go downtown.
Yeah,
No desire.
There are,
but I get it.
I will go down for.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when obviously I will go downtown, but at this point in my life, I'm just not going to do it for anything other than sports, probably. I mean, unless there's some great big concert that I just got to be at. But
either sports or a really good friend coming into town that I've not seen in 15 years, which was the event that sparked my last visit to Broadway, basically. So
yeah, well, and NFL draft, absolutely going, that sort of thing. But you're right. I mean, and here's the thing: the East Bank is going to be its own separate thing. You don't even have to cross the river and get involved in anything across the river on Broadway or near Bridgestone if you don't want to, once this is completed. And I think that's another thing that people need to hear as well. So
unless you're in East Nashville.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people over there that are, but then again, the folks in East Nashville have certainly changed the dynamic over there themselves. Mm-hmm. Recently. So there's all that. But nonetheless, I think this is a positive for the city. I think, I don't know if you saw this or not, and I cannot believe that I read this. Did you see Stephen Hargis's tweet?
Which one? I mean, I follow Stephen, but
about this particular move.
Oh no, I did not. I have not. What's he saying?
He said, if and when this happens, TSSAA should no longer accept bids and force Nashville to host it.
Force Nashville to host it?
I mean, essentially.
I don't know how that works, but I mean,
essentially, you know what I mean, though.
Well, and what's funny, Chris, is, we went to SEC Media Days back in July. We got the opportunity to go over to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and they had that fantastic display up there of all the GHSA state championship teams with their helmets up on one wall, that kind of thing. I mean, there's so much that you could do with that. Clearly, it's going to be an indoor facility, so clearly there's going to be artificial turf. So clearly, playing outside, playing on natural grass, playing 9 games in 3 days is no longer an issue. So, I mean, yeah, he's right.
Yeah, I think if there's any way to get it to Nashville with this kind of facility, it's climate controlled. I mean, while last year was fantastic, that's the exception, not the rule.
That's absolutely the exception to being outside the first week of December. Absolutely. And I'm not really looking forward to going back down there this year either, because I know that last year was the exception. But again, I mean, there's no reason for it not to be, for the Blue Cross Bowl state championship games to not be in this facility, period. I mean, and the TSSAA and those guys need to be opening these conversations immediately. And, if it's not something that can happen, the TSSAA needs to make it perfectly clear, we tried.
It wasn't us.
Because, I mean, that's been one of the talking points about the state championship games, was that with it being played at Tennessee Tech in particular, the kids weren't getting the type experience out of playing in a state championship game that they deserved. This would be that.
Absolutely, it would. No question. Well, speaking of high school sports, Mo, we had a weekend full of them and other sports. So why don't we hop into this weekend's results and today's very, 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 very short schedule. And we'll get to today's rundown.
This is the Rundown.
The Monday Rundown is brought to you by Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education in Murray County. Give them a call today at 931-388-5831 or visit zioneagles.org to schedule your appointment today. Zion Christian Academy. Prepare for college, equipped for purpose.
In Friday football action, it was Blackman over Rockville 62-28. Loretto down Cascade 23-13. Davidson Academy all over Goodpasture 34-7. It was Friendship Christian 31, East Hamilton 14, while McCauley doubled up Father Ryan 28-14. Richland in a thriller 42-41 at Forest. And Beach with a 42-7 win over Gallatin. Pearl Cone downs Greensboro 19-6, while Baylor took care of Hendersonville 56-14. Eagleville over Huntland 21-13.
Also, Jackson Central Mary, love hearing that name in high school football again, with a 21-13 win over Ezel Harding. Lincoln County shocks Columbia Central 25-8. Lipscomb Academy with a 42-13 win over Pure Youth Athletic Alliance. Donaldson Christian defeats Mount Juliet Christian 56-6. Mount Pleasant wraps up a Region 5 2A championship with a 34-7 win over Summertown. It's Nashville Christian 31, Columbia Academy 14. Pope Prep defeats Knoxville Catholic 42-35. Station Camp with a 21-14 win over Portland. And Oakland in the Battle of Murfreesboro defeats Riverdale 42-6.
And a squeaker, Stewart's Creek down Siegel 14-13. It was Smyrna 42-14 winners over Dixon County. Franklin County shuts out Spring Hill 49-0, while Lawrence County gets a win over defending 4A state champ Tullahoma 14-10. It was Middle Tennessee Christian 42, Webb School 21. East Robertson 29-7 winners over Westmoreland. And White House down Stewart County 49-14.
In volleyball action on Saturday, Baylor defeated Harpeth Hall 3-0. Battleground Academy in 5 games downs North Point Christian 3-2. Same for Boyd Buchanan 3-2 over Providence Christian. Briarcrest Christian with a 3-0 win over Father Ryan. Middle Tennessee Christian blanks Silverdale 3-0. It was Ensworth 3, St. Agnes 2, and Goodpasture with a 3-0 win over St. George's.
In girls soccer action, Father Ryan down Chattanooga Central 2-1. It was in college football action. It was Vanderbilt falling to Georgia 55-0. Tennessee a 52-49 winner over Alabama. Western Kentucky 35-17 over MTSU. It was Austin P 52, Murray State 17. Tennessee State bouncing back in a big way to open conference play with a 30-14 win over Tennessee Tech. And Thomas More down Cumberland 24-16.
In NHL action, the Preds went to Dallas and dropped a 5-1 decision to the Stars. MLS, Nashville Soccer Club's postseason comes to an end with a 1-0 loss to the LA Galaxy. In Major League Baseball playoff action, the Phillies defeated the Braves 9-1 on Friday and eliminated the Braves 8-3 on Saturday. The Guardians defeated the Yankees 4-2 in 10 and 6-5 to force. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. And the Yankees won 4-2 to stave off elimination yesterday. So that series will go to a game 5. The Padres with a 2-1 win over the Dodgers and then a 5-3 clinching victory over the Dodgers. And the Astros in 18 innings.
They played 4 games, but Houston won 3-0.
Yeah, right. The Astros with a 1-0 win over Seattle. I tell you, over the history of the Astros, if they get you to the 18th, they've got you right where they want you. But the Astros won the Mariners nothing to clinch that series. So there we go.
Man. What a game that was too. Game 5 tonight, as Mo said, Yankees hosting the Guardians. It's a 6:07 first pitch on TBS, and then the Broncos in primetime again for whatever reason.
Because you can't check out of it, I guess.
I guess they're at Los Angeles for the Chargers at 7:15 tonight on ESPN. Watch at your own peril. There you go.
There you go.
That's going to do it for today's rundown. We come back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. With Reaction Monday, we'll talk about the elephant in the room that's laying on the floor over here. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Tennessee, Alabama, right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Chase McGrath for the win for the Volunteers. From 40. On the way, a knuckleball. He got it! And here they come.
All right, so that was a fantastic call there, obviously, but imagine what it could have been. It could have been this right here.
Snap, set, kick. Yes! 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 The impossible situation possible. Everybody said it couldn't happen, and it happens.
With the what's that, Nickelback in the background?
No, it was not Nickelback, but that was Mike Keith. And imagine had he been on the call, that's what it would have sounded like.
The VOT.
The voice of the Tennessee.
You know that story, right?
The story of
why it wasn't Mike Keith on that call.
I don't know why it wasn't. I know why it never will be.
Because basically Mike Keith took the Titans job about 6 months before John Ward retired.
That's unfortunate.
He had been working in or with UT Athletics prior to that. So
I knew that because he called other things.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing play-by-play for other sports, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he takes the Titans job. John Ward retires. Bob Kessling gets it, and now you're not getting him out of Franklin.
Well, he's home, man.
Yeah,
so,
he's home. You're not getting him out. He's in his hometown. He's calling NFL football games. It's unfortunate, but I'm just saying it could have been really amazing.
I'm surprised you didn't play Bob Kessling's call.
I wanted to be awake for this segment.
Wow,
it was bad.
That was a snipe.
So, anyway. I'm not going to let it get me down, though, because I don't know if you guys heard, but Tennessee beat Alabama on Saturday.
Let me just say, Chase's kick wasn't pretty other than in its effectiveness.
It was pretty rough. And, I mean, it was a lot closer to the crossbar than I would have liked to have seen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it got tipped by the guy who jumped over the center.
I'd like to think that that's what caused it to knuckle the way it did.
Yeah, the knuckle was crazy.
Because otherwise, I don't know.
So it was interesting. It was certainly interesting, but it didn't matter because just like that Independence Bowl field goal that I've talked about, my favorite Eli Gold call when he said, "It's ugly." It's beautiful. So, it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it goes through those uprights and above the crossbar. That's all that matters.
That's
and,
it.
Those uprights and those crossbars, well, that was the last field goal they'll ever see.
Yeah.
They didn't.
There will be new crossbars and uprights in place for the UT Martin game on Saturday. So
one of my favorite quotes after I can't remember who was on the call, but they were saying that that dude that kicked at McGrath, right? Isn't that what it is? McGrath?
Yeah.
He'll never have to buy another meal in Knoxville.
He may not. He may not. There's that. Now, I do have to pull this out because we're talking about them. Tennessee football, Vol football tweets out afterwards. Y'all remember how we tore down the goalposts, hauled them out, dumped them in the Tennessee River? That was awesome. Anywho, turns out we need that in order to play next week's game. Could y'all help us out? They're using it as a fundraiser, and there are very intelligent people who are taking this far too literally. And I would just like to point out that it's just a fundraiser. They clearly have the money. They brought in $94 million last year and only paid out 35. Tennessee's got the money, but this is a fundraiser opportunity. You're taking a chance to ask your fan base to donate $16. I think it was that you could donate $16. You could donate $52.49 or like $101.
101.
Yeah, and some change for the capacity. So great job by the marketing department here to make that happen. And
well, I mean, here's the thing: you are making an appeal to your fan base when it is at its emotional highest that it's been at in quite some time as it relates to Tennessee football.
absolutely.
And they would be derelict in their duties if they weren't doing this.
That is my point. This is not a literal, hey guys, we need money.
Yeah, this isn't a, oh my God, what are we going to do about crossbars for next week?
Especially when Randy Boyd said, it doesn't matter what it costs. We'll do it every year.
It's actually, I tweeted something, but Jody deserves the credit for it when we talked about the $100,000 fine and replacing the goalposts and that kind of thing. She's like, just charge him to get off the field.
I saw that. $10 to get off the field. Done.
Because I mean, who wouldn't have?
Oh yeah. I got $10 right here. Here you go.
Yeah, shoot. That's small price to pay. Here's 100 for me and my 9 friends. Yeah,
I only got a 20. Keep the change.
Yeah. Shoot. That's what they missed.
I'll tell you though, what an atmosphere. I had a friend of mine, friend of the show, Brian Hamilton, who is an Alabama grad, and he roots for Tennessee. He's a little weird because he will root for Tennessee most of the time because he lives in Eastern Tennessee. Went to the ball game. Texted me afterwards and said, this was the most insane atmosphere I've ever seen. And I think that's what you get when you get these types of, I love it. When you get these types of events happen, this is huge. I mean, not that it was 16 years in the making, because it was, but just because Tennessee football had been so bad for so long, and now you're a number 3 team in the country because
they had been bad to the point of being an afterthought, and they had been good before, and so a lot of people remember when this was a regular thing for Tennessee, and this is something that they've wanted to get back to. I don't know, Chris, you talk about the atmosphere. At _Josh Prey on Twitter. Yes. He put out a video after the Florida game, and he put out another one after this game.
I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if he's not a Tennessee fan by this time.
He's pretty close. I mean, much respect expressed in his video from yesterday. But it's he speaks on the atmosphere that he saw when he came up for the Florida game, and telling Alabama football fans hurts, doesn't it? But this isn't anything new necessarily for Tennessee fans. It's just been a while. And I think what's kind of interesting about it is the number of Alabama fans that are saying everybody celebrates when they beat us. Well, yeah, that's the standard that you have created. So, I mean, don't make fun of folks when they celebrate for beating you. I mean, just don't get beat, which for the most part hasn't happened.
But a lot of folks forget about 2005. Had 2002 been in Tuscaloosa, I think a similar situation probably would have ensued. 2005, it was their first win in Tuscaloosa against Tennessee. And the students didn't rush the field, but a lot of folks did. You can go back and watch the CBS video from that. But to kind of piggyback off your point, no, this isn't new for some Tennessee fans, but for that entire student section, it was.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they were toddlers the last time Tennessee beat Alabama. So, if you are
in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds who could barely talk, if at all, to say Rocky
And
Top.
certainly couldn't appreciate it. Yeah.
Certainly not. Absolutely. So it's huge. And it was as good of a football game as you could ask for. Were there some iffy calls? Absolutely. I think some went one way, some went the other. There were some iffy no calls too, if I'm being honest. I mean, Bryce Young took some hits, and
yeah, he did.
Probably should have been a couple of personal fouls.
Probably should have been a targeting at least one.
And they reviewed that and still said no. I don't know how that happened, but nonetheless, it was still a great football game. You had the SEC's best officiating crew. You had everything that you could ask for in a top 6 matchup in an Alabama-Tennessee game. It was 101,000 plus. It was 125 decibels on the decibel meter. It registered as it moved the earth. And to come out of there with a win for Tennessee, it completely solidifies your program. You have now shut up all of the haters, including, and I'm not a hater, I was a doubter, including myself. I was a doubter up until Friday, I'm not going to lie. And no more next year is our year is Tennessee's motto. Because even if you lose to Georgia, even if you don't make the SEC championship game, even if any of those things don't happen, you have still beaten Alabama. You're still going to finish the year probably with double-digit wins. This is, and likely a New Year's Six Bowl, if not better. You have officially made it back if you're UT.
And for the number of people that didn't think that Josh Heupel was capable of getting Tennessee back, I mean, what was that? His 20th game? Is that what I saw? Is that right?
That's no 14-6. He wouldn't have played 14 games last year. He would have played.
So it was less than that then.
Would have played 13 games last year. This is his 19th game.
I mean, I just think you have to give credit where credit is due as far as that goes. I mean, they clearly have upgraded the roster in a short period of time, and they've taken advantage of some talent that was already there. And folks in Blacksburg have got to be kicking themselves.
I did not realize, and I don't know the accuracy of this because I didn't go back and fact check it, but I did see a tweet where someone said that Jeremy Pruitt is actually the one who recruited Hendon Hooker to Tennessee.
So Hooker was on campus before Pruitt. That sounds right.
So thanks for that. If nothing else, thanks for that.
Well, and here's another thing. Jeremy Pruitt is the one that convinced Jeremy Banks to move from running back to linebacker.
Well, maybe not everything he did was so terrible.
A lot of it was, but certainly
we'll take the nuggets we got.
Certainly those two really have worked out. So again, credit where credit's due. I don't know where we are in terms of break. So there's a point that I wanted to make, but I don't know if I need to make it now or later.
Go ahead.
There is an article on The Athletic. I think it was Chris Vanini that wrote it, ranking college football teams 1 through 131. I don't know if it's a weekly thing or not because I've never seen it, but he's got Tennessee ranked number 1, 2, clearly the joy of a number of folks. That comes on the heels of the Knoxville News Sentinel's columnist John Adams tweeting over the weekend. I don't know if he wrote it or not, because anyway, that Tennessee should be number one this week. And when I mentioned that to you, Chris, you spoke about Tennessee's win over Alabama being the best win in college football. And I get that. I'm just not, I think where Tennessee is right now, which is number 3 behind Georgia and Ohio State in the AP poll, is about where they should be, because I don't know that Tennessee is better than Georgia or Ohio State. I think they have an argument when they're compared to any other team in the country other than those two. But I don't know how best team versus best win stack up as far as that goes.
No, I'm just saying with that argument, I can see how you could make the argument for Tennessee being number one. This is what I wanted to show you here is the K Ford rankings, the difficulty to achieve Tennessee's 6-0 record. Only 4% of the average college football teams could do what Tennessee has done.
Well, that's because they played, 4 teams that were ranked in the top 25 at the time that they played them?
Correct. So
yeah.
This is the point that they're making is that Georgia's schedule of being 7-0 is actually easier than Alabama's being 6-1. It was easier for Georgia to go to 7-0 than it was for Alabama to be 6-1 is what this says. And it's just interesting because we all knew that. I mean, anybody who looked at Tennessee's schedule and said, man, this is we talked about it. This is a brutal stretch. When you talk about Pitt on the road, LSU on the road, Alabama, period, and then and
Florida.
You throw in Florida, who you haven't beaten but once in 12 years. It just kind of it was a recipe for disaster for typical Tennessee teams, and this team overcame it somehow, some way. So I just, and again, that's all I'm saying is I can see the argument and why you could make the argument for Tennessee to be ranked number one. I think if you're talking about, preseason rankings screw up everything. Yes and no. I mean, let's be honest. I didn't think Clemson should have been number 5, but here we are, and they're pretty darn good. So it is what it is. This is going to work itself out. We've got a playoff system, albeit 4 teams. And right now we've got 3 undefeated SEC teams. So, and only 2 of them play one another. So, anyway.
Something to look forward to.
It certainly is. Let's take a short break here. And when we come back, our baseball team. Get to the final Braves chatter of the year.
Probably not.
Well, final Braves chatter on an everyday basis. Yeah. So we'll be right back right after this. Main Street Sports is presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stick around. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee sports editor, 3-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
Other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama, so other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. out this day in Braves history with Mo Patton.
As it is a final this day in Braves history, let's go out on a high note. October 17th, 1996, the biggest blowout in postseason history propels Atlanta into the World Series as the Braves blast visiting St. Louis 15-0 in Game 7 of the NLCS. It was their third straight win after trailing the Cardinals 3-1, a rally that made St. Louis the first franchise to blow 3-1 postseason series leads. Victory followed a 14-0 Game 5 decision at Busch Stadium and a 3-1 win in Game 6 back in Atlanta. The Braves scored 6 runs in the first, capped by a 2-out bases-loaded triple by Tom Glavine. That's pitcher Tom Glavine, and never looked back, as 7 of Atlanta's 17 hits went for extra bases in the victory. So there you go. Could have used some of those hits over the last few days.
Didn't get a great series from much of anybody outside of Ronald Acuna's 5 for 15. Travis d'Arnaud and Matt Olson had great series. Everybody else we could have just about done without.
Yeah, well, you probably need to remind some folks that Acuna was 5 for 15 because JT Realmuto's inside the park home run apparently was Acuna's fault. Never mind that he was playing right field and the ball hit in left center.
Yeah, I've always heard, when the ball's hit, 9 players need to be moving.
Everybody has a place to be. I get it. Here's the thing. Nobody's mentioning
you're supposed to be.
Well, I mean, JT Realmuto is a catcher, but he has deceptive catcher speed. I mean, he's pretty athletic. I mean, this is a guy who was recruited to play quarterback at various colleges coming out of high school. I mean, he's not slow. He's not catcher slow. If Acuna was anticipating that ball coming off the wall and kicking along the warning track toward right field, and that's some kind of anticipation right there. I don't know, but suddenly it's his fault that Realmuto got an inside the park home run out of that, and
never mind the fact that he probably scores anyway. Even if it was a double or a triple.
Yeah, because that's the way things were going for the Braves at that point. But I mean, it is amazing to me how a player as dynamic as Ronald Acuna Jr. has become such a scapegoat in various Braves country factions. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, I mentioned it in Game 1 when he let that ball drop in right field, and I thought, that just seems weird. And then you let this happen, and suddenly it's not giving him the benefit of the doubt. By the way, he's still recovering from an ACL tear. He's still not probably 100% because he's been playing since May and didn't rest it the length of time he really needed to rest it, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you can take little things here and there, but you cannot question this guy's heart for the team. You can't question his ability. You can't.
Oh, you can.
Well, not successfully.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is, can you say, well, he probably should have done this instead? Maybe. But again, when you're talking about a ball hit to the other side of the field,
here's the thing.
Know what he's supposed to do.
Here's the thing. You can say, and I said as I was watching it, wow, I wish Acuna had been breaking on that ball. But that's just because of the way the ball kicked, because of the way whatever that stadium is, the way that fence is designed. It's got that crazy angle going out from left to center, and the ball hit it. And instead of kicking back toward the infield, it kicked toward right field. But I mean, I don't know how many games you have to play there to expect, one, that Michael Harris wasn't going to catch that ball, and two, that it was going to bounce the way it did off the wall when he didn't catch it.
Yeah, I don't know where you would have expected or rather him to have been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't
I
know
mean,
where the right fielder goes on and that's just my baseball idiocy. I don't know where the right fielder should go on a ball hit to left center.
I would like to ask some of our baseball coaching friends, and maybe I will do that at some point, what their read was on that. But I think there's a big difference in saying, man, wish he'd have been breaking on that ball, and it trying to make it be his fault that play took place.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
Or saying that it's inexcusable, as dugout reporter Kelly Kroll said.
What I'm most confused about more than anything is I don't know how you blame anybody for anything that happened in this series because everything seemed to go the other way.
Everything.
And look, we saw it last year. We were the beneficiary of everything going the other way. It went our way last year. Eddie Rosario should have never done what he did. Okay, we get that. And it's going to happen. It's playoff baseball. But I don't think Major League Baseball did the Braves any favors. You saw the one time they played in prime time. What happened?
But here's the thing. The Braves have got to be above that. That can't be an issue. The splits between day and night can't be that.
And yet it was through 167 games.
But
66 games.
And so Major League Baseball is going to look at that and say, hey, these guys are trash during the day. Let's be sure and not give them any day games.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the Braves do need to be above that, but they weren't at any point during this year is my point.
Mm-hmm.
My point is that it certainly – I'm not saying the MLB did it intentionally. I'm just saying they didn't do them any favors.
They didn't.
So let's
and again, as you said, we needed more rain delays basically because the one game we did get after dark worked out pretty well. Yeah. Okay, Crash. Where's Crash Davis when you need him, right?
Where's Crash? Jeez, man, come on. So it's unfortunate. We saw a lot of things go the other way, and the Braves just didn't hit the baseball. They didn't pitch the baseball very well. I mean,
aside from Kyle Wright,
game 1 and game 3, story of 2 innings. I mean, at those 2 innings, you take them away, and in both of those games, you're right there in it. But
and game 3 was a lack of reaction by people who were supposed to react to the shortcomings of a guy that you knew was on a short leash going into the game.
I don't understand. And this, have we talked about this? This happened on Friday, right?
This happened on Friday, so no, we've not
talked about this. I don't understand how a guy who's already on a short lease can throw 4 consecutive balls to a guy who hasn't been worth a flip at all in the postseason, throws a 5th consecutive ball to the next batter, and nobody goes to talk to him. Nobody says, hey, what's his velo right now? What's going on? I mean, I'm sitting there looking at his velo going 95.8, 96.2. It's obviously dropping. Maybe we need to go get him because he didn't do any simulated innings coming into that. He had not done any simulated innings in 26 days, Spencer Strider. He had not sat down, got back up, sat down, got back up. He was tired. It was obvious to everybody watching except apparently Rick Kranitz and Brian Snitker.
It was obvious to the Phillies.
Oh, absolutely, because
they even made mention of it.
Yeah, they were hacking. They were like, we're going up there. We're going to take care of this. And they did. Yeah. Dylan Lee comes in, gives up a home run as well. And it's like, because listen, hitting is contagious.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Once you get that confidence going, that's a tough train to slow down, man. But
the way they were hitting it the entire series, it wouldn't have mattered if we were throwing Nolan Ryan or it just didn't matter.
No, it really didn't. And that's why I don't think I'm really upset about the fact that the Brave season is over. I'm disappointed.
Sure.
But I mean, if we could have, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in us winning Game 5 if there had been a Game 5.
No, absolutely not. I think
And
that's another key right there. Absolutely.
and you know, for all the talk about the playoff system is messed up and all these series should be best of 7 and that kind of thing, I don't know that the Braves win a best of 7 against the Phillies the way they played in 4.
Well, crap. We're going to win 3 in a row?
Yeah.
After losing Game 4? No.
Yeah. So, I mean, and sometimes it just doesn't happen, man. It's like you said, we caught all the breaks last year and we caught none this year. I mean, let's take 160 something days and get this one out of our system and get ready for 23 and go from there.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, this is an unfortunate end to the season. Let's be honest. Now, luckily,
but there's only one team and only one fan base that's going to be happy with the way their season ends anyway.
That's correct. But luckily, none of our writers are writing columns about how they should just give us the trophy anyway because we had a great regular season.
That's so pathetic.
Is it not?
That's so pathetic.
They are absolutely the Los Angeles Dodgers and LA Times sports columnists. Just, I don't know how you can legitimately write those things and think that you have something worth reading. It's insane. But neither here nor there at this point.
It's pathetic, is what it is. It really is. And you know. All 3 teams that won 100 games are out. The Dodgers, the Braves, and Sarah and the Mets. Yep. No, 3 of the 4 because the Astros won 100 as well.
Yeah, Astros also won 100. So,
but all 3 in the National League are out. It's not how many; it's when.
That's right. It doesn't matter how many you win as long as you get in the playoffs. And once you get there, it's 0-0.
Yeah.
And right now, the Phillies are 5-1,
and that's all that matters.
Pretty darn good. Hey. I told you before the playoffs started, did I not tell you that we had to match the Dodgers? Well, guess what?
We matched the Dodgers.
Lost 3-1.
Yep.
So
there you go.
There you go. 2023. Right now, you think about this. The potential in 2023 is one of the more positive things that you can take out of this. You've got Ozzie Albies coming back. You've got Spencer Strider and Ronald Acuna who should be 100%. You've hopefully got a Kyle Muller who's going to give you some Kyle Wright type throwing out of Gwinnett. You've got obviously your entire infield is locked up forever as soon as you sign Dansby Swanson, I assume. You've got a guy, you've got a young phenom in Vaughn Grissom who can easily outplay Guillermo Heredia, Orlando Arcia, or anybody else who's on that bench. I think what you're going to see in 2023 is going to be a really impressive Braves club. The only thing that you can hope for is that Brian Snicker does not mismanage it.
Oh, well.
And
so much for that.
Unfortunately, that may be asking for more than we can get.
Yeah. So Ken Rosenthal tweeted earlier today, and David O'Brien of The Athletic retweeted it. For what it's worth, last November 30th, just before lockout, Players Union proposed 12-team playoff, but with 2 significant differences from format the Union and MLB eventually adopted: a best-of-7 division series as opposed to a best-of-5, and reseeding after wild card round. Now, if that had taken place, then it would have been the Dodgers and the Phillies after the wild card, and it would have been the Braves in San Diego. Does that change anything?
I mean, the Padres certainly beat up on the Dodgers, so I don't know.
And yeah, I don't know how much that changes, if anything.
I'm not sure either. I'm not sure. And that's the thing is, I think I've always been a fan of reseeding because there's no reason not to. There's not a good reason not to reseed in the playoffs. I mean, the number one seed shouldn't have to play the 4 seed if the 6 seed is still out there. Period. It just shouldn't have to happen. And it doesn't have to happen. This is Major League Baseball. It's not like they can't make travel arrangements on a short notice. They charter flights. This is not, I mean, it's not like it's, D2 college basketball. It's just not.
Right.
I mean, so let's some common sense here would have been great, but I'm not going to complain about it either. I'm just going to tell you that that's the way it is, and here we are, upset because the Braves and I'm like you on Saturday. The Braves were so far out of my mind. I didn't care if they.
I am so glad UT Alabama was on, and it gave me something else to focus on. And
I didn't want to even touch it.
No. And maybe the last 2 innings I probably didn't. And fun fact, $840 in MTSU football tickets this weekend because we were going to go over there and decided not to. And
good call.
So glad for that decision as well, because I'd have probably pulled a Casey Patrick watching MTSU lose to Western Kentucky 35-17. So,
well, if it would have helped them come back to win, you would have taken
it. Wouldn't have.
Well, I had a conversation with the photographer at a wedding that I was DJing yesterday, who is an MTSU grad, and I mentioned your name, and he said, "Oh yeah, I know all about Mo." So it was pretty cool. That just so you know, he knew you, and
I don't know him.
Right, you probably don't, and that's kind of cool. You got to admit. So he asked for and got a sticker. He may be watching right now. I hope he is.
Nice.
But we talked about Rick Stockstill, and in fact, I gave him your quote about I'd trade every one of those upsets for a couple conference championships, and he said absolutely. I mean, who cares if you beat Miami if you lose to Western and
UAB and UAT in succession?
Yeah. Now, Conference USA didn't do MTSU any favors either, Mo.
No, they didn't. As Chris Massaro pointed out when we spoke with them a couple of weeks ago, but still, I mean, whether you play those games 3 in a row or whether you play them 3 over a 2-month period, you got to figure out a way to win some of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question.
As this has morphed away from a Brave segment,
it has, and that's okay. We're still waiting on. I'm waiting on Ryan Callahan of 24/7 Go Vols 24/7. He's going to be joining us here, and I told him, I said, whenever you get on, we'll go to break and come back and talk to you. So that's why I want to just keep kind of going here, and then we'll talk to Ryan here in just a second about the impact that Saturday most certainly had to have had on UT recruiting, because I believe there were 8 5-stars and 15 4-stars in attendance, which is
and I think they got a commitment yesterday from a receiver out of South Carolina.
Well,
so
I wouldn't be surprised to see more of those be coming down here shortly as well. But yeah, you're right. Saturday was a tough day for a lot of teams. Did not see 55-0 coming from Georgia and Vanderbilt either. I thought Vanderbilt could score at least.
Based on what?
Well, I mean, their offense has not been terrible. They got a pretty good wide receiver, number 4 in the league in receiving yards. They
looked like Mike Wright got some run Saturday. I guess everybody did.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it ain't working, try something else. And I think they tried everything they had, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out for Vanderbilt. Obviously, just a tough day. I mean, giving up 55 points to Georgia is not really That's nothing to get too upset about because it's one of the best offenses in the country.
Mhm.
But not scoring at all when Kent State put up, 24?
22.
22. I mean, you feel
Missouri scored, 20?
Yeah.
22?
Maybe it was just a bad place to be if you're a Vanderbilt. They've laid 2 eggs in a row, and that team was just ready to make a statement saying, hey, we're still Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, if they didn't. So that's tough right there for sure. And while we've got it, I wanted to show you this. Did you see? This is a TV station from the Knoxville area.
Oh, how did that get on air?
It's a great question.
Well, I mean, there's being prepared, but oh my goodness.
I mean, that's pretty tough.
Ooh.
Oh, that's rough right there.
That's bad. In Knoxville.
Right? And it wasn't the only thing, but you know, it was also recently just got word that of the football schedule for 2 weeks from now, as you see there, Tennessee and Kentucky will be the 6 o'clock ESPN game, not the 6:30 SEC Network Saturday night game.
Well, I mean, ESPN's got a chance to get the number 3 team in the country on TV or not. I mean, what are they gonna? Are you shocked at that?
Well, I didn't know who had the first pick. I didn't know who was going to get the pick, if it was going to be ESPN or SEC Network Saturday night. I don't know what order the succession is after CBS 2:30 kick.
I would think ESPN has.
I guess
first.
ESPN's primetime probably gets it, and then SEC Saturday night, and then or they just put the SEC games wherever they feel like they fit best.
Right.
After that. So, boy, Auburn, Arkansas, man. A lot of the early games for the Tigers. A lot of early games.
Well, you know what that means. So,
yes, we do. Yes, we do. It means your coach is probably on the hot seat. But yeah, so there you go. Ryan Callahan just texted, said he is headed our way here in just a moment. So we will take a short break, and when we come back, we will get to Ryan and talk about a little recruiting right here on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. You guys stick around right after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
The high school football season is here, and nobody handles Friday nights better than Main Street Media. Here's Zach Womble with details.
That's the name of the game here at Main Street Media and Main Street Preps. Is, we've been doing this for a long time now, and I think you hit on it. We've got an army of reporters across all of Middle Tennessee. I think there's about 130 schools in the Middle Tennessee area, and we try to cover all of them. We cover about 11, 12 counties at this point. And those Friday night shows, it's we're gonna show that off. We're gonna showcase the talent that we have on the field with reporters across several mid-state games on the weekly basis. So, whether you're in Williamson County, whether you're in Giles County or Murray County or Montgomery or Robertson or anywhere in between, we're going to have you covered from 6 to 11.
Friday Night Live is presented by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk.
Welcome back again to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton as we continue this Reaction Monday here. Got a lot to get to and continue to get to here on this Monday edition of Main Street Sports Today, and looking forward to it as we have our only guest of the day, which is exciting. But we have with us now from 24/7 Sports, Ryan Callahan. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, not a whole lot. How's it going?
Oh, we're just here so we don't get fined.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Man, what a weekend it was in Knoxville. You guys had a lot of stuff heading into it and getting prepared for this weekend. And I saw your tweet about the number of high-ranking recruits that were in Knoxville for this game, and boy, it couldn't have gone any better for Tennessee, could it?
Yeah, no kidding. I was just discussing that with some people earlier that this game, I mean, it's one thing to win a game like that and knock off a team you haven't beaten in 16 years. Win a top 10 matchup like that that puts you in the top 5 nationally, but to do it in dramatic fashion in a way that sets off a celebration and a post-game scene like that. That's the kind of experience that'll stick with a lot of those recruits who were in attendance for a long, long time. Some of these guys get to see great games almost every week if they're juniors or seniors in high school. You'd be amazed how many visits some of these guys can take. And yet, even with all the great games they see, they might not see one quite like that because that was pretty special. So that is the kind of thing where you want all those guys in attendance. You want to showcase that atmosphere either way if you're Tennessee, but to be able to have it end that way, that dramatically, and be that kind of a charged up environment from start to finish and after, they couldn't have asked for anything more. And I think they're going to get a lot of mileage out of this. We'll see how much in the short term, but definitely in the long term, especially with some of the really elite players they had in future classes on campus, in addition to some class of 2023 targets.
To expand on that, Ryan, I thought I saw a tweet yesterday about a receiver out of South Carolina who committed to UT. Mm-hmm. Did I see that correctly? Is that accurate?
Yes, Mazio Bennett, a 4-star class of 2024 prospect. Now, interestingly enough, he was not at the game Saturday. That was one that was sort of scheduled. He was in town for the Florida game a few weeks earlier and had basically committed by the end of that visit and just waited to announce his decision on his birthday, which was Sunday. So that's why that one happened. Kind of coincidental timing, but definitely gave the appearance that it was a result of Tennessee's win Saturday or that atmosphere. But yeah, he was not on campus for that one. Just waiting until his birthday to announce a decision he had basically made a few weeks earlier. But still another sign of where Tennessee has things headed. I think in the 2024 class, those are high school juniors. They've already got 3 commitments for that class. One of them from a 5-star, Jonathan Eccles, and another from a 4-star now. So off to a pretty good start in that class, which I think is always a good sign of having things pretty healthy in recruiting when you're getting early commitments like that, and kind of shows the continuity the staff is starting to build too.
So that was a non-Alabama related commitment then, and it was a 24, as you said. So obviously this has got to spur some momentum. Are you hearing anything in the aftermath? Have you spoken to very many recruits that have been swayed, you feel like, by the events of the weekend?
Well, I think a lot of guys, especially the ones in future classes, but at least one 2023 target. I've spoken with Tyler Scott, a really fast rising defensive back out of Georgia, who has blown up lately. Just decommitted from Arkansas State a couple weeks ago, and since then has gotten offers from Alabama, Miami, Oklahoma, USC, and others. Tennessee offered a few days before he decommitted, and this is his first visit to Tennessee. Last week he visits Alabama, comes away from there, gets an offer a couple days later, and he's in one interview called Alabama his leader. Now he visits Tennessee. Essentially, they're on top right now, but it still feels like that one. It might be a long way to go in that one if he follows through on his plan to take some official visits, maybe all 5 over the next several weeks. But that's one where I think Tennessee definitely has him leaning in their direction, at least at the moment. And then guys like David Hobbs, who that's a Tennessee-Alabama battle maybe, and so that was an especially important visit for Tennessee. He's got a couple official visits left. Looks like he's going to Georgia and Alabama with his last 2 visits, but one last chance for Tennessee to get him on campus before he decides maybe next month. And he sees that environment already like Tennessee. So I think that helped Tennessee's chances with him. But a lot of those early targets in the 2024 and 2025 classes had multiple guys in those classes tell me, if one kid came straight out and said, if I was making my decision today, I would probably go to Tennessee. And a couple guys saying, hey, Tennessee leads for me. So we'll see over the long haul how much that sticks, but at least the immediate reaction to that, and you can get some emotional reaction sometimes after visits that doesn't stick, but I think there's some traction to it that might be more of a long-term impact. But some guys that I think really were swayed, or this at least added to their serious interest in Tennessee enough to really make an impact. And with that many guys on campus in that kind of environment, how could it not make an impact on a lot of those kids?
Well, as you mentioned, Tyler Scott in particular, if UT's looking for commitments from anybody, I'm sure it's in the defensive secondary.
That's a good point. And now, I will say Tennessee's already done a lot to address that position. 6 defensive backs already committed to them in the 2023 class, 3 projected corners and 3 projected safeties. They've got a 4-star corner or a couple 4-star corners headlining that class, Jordan Matthews and Ricky Gibson, also Christian Conyer out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, who I like quite a bit with his upside. So they've gotten some pretty good players in the secondary already, but maybe still looking to add one more, depending on what they can get and sort of how the numbers work out. So yeah, Tyler Scott or any of a few other guys they're actively involved with would be a welcome addition, I think, as you mentioned, with what they're working with in the secondary right now. They clearly need to bring in some help there, and they certainly have immediate playing time, or at least early playing time, as a possibility to sell to those guys.
Speaking with Ryan Callahan here of 24/7 Sports, and Ryan, when you look back 2 years from now at this weekend, do you think that this is the turning point, or was the turning point already happening for this Tennessee staff?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think it may be hard to separate a few different factors. If you're looking at just the trajectory of this program, you could argue in recruiting that if we look back and things work out well for Tennessee, it may be landing Nico Iamaleava, the 5-star quarterback commitment back in March. It may be the addition of NIL not being legislated really in any way, and kind of leveling the playing field in a lot of these recruiting battles that I think has benefited Tennessee and some other programs that are not up there that haven't been up there competing for national championships on a yearly basis. I think that's already benefited some programs and made it much more competitive nationally, where Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, those types of programs aren't getting all of the good players. They're still getting their fair share, but there's plenty to go around, and Tennessee and other schools have benefited from that. And yeah, the on-field success kind of converging with that. I think it's all kind of coming in the same short span. So it's hard to say how we'll look back at this going in the long run. Still the biggest factor in all this still might have been the parting gift that Jeremy Pruitt left for Josh Heupel's staff in Hendon Hooker. It's amazing how that. What a story he played at Virginia Tech, started a lot of games there. But, it's this late addition that even when Tennessee got him, people weren't really sure he'd be the starter, and he doesn't earn the starting job. They bring in Joe Milton after him, and he opens last year as the starter. And now we're talking about him as a Heisman, top contender for the Heisman, if not one of the 2 or 3 front runners for it. So amazing but when you look at Tennessee, this roster to me is not really top to bottom ready to contend on a national level. I think Hendon Hooker and this offensive system have kind of combined to speed up this process, and Hooker's playing at such a high level that it's elevating the rest of the team. And that may be the biggest factor of all that's kind of sped up this rebuild for Tennessee.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Ryan, because Chris and I had talked about that parting gift that Jeremy Pruitt left earlier in the show, and also that Pruitt was pretty much the impetus for Jeremy Banks making the move from offense to defense, and he's really become a factor, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee.
Well, he definitely has, and he's kind of the gift that gives and that sometimes takes away a little bit from Tennessee. He's that firecracker in the middle that makes things happen one way or another. But I thought he had one of his better games Saturday. Depends on how much you believe in things like the Pro Football Focus grades, but he never seems to grade out extremely high, which kind of maybe points to some of his weaknesses of just not always being in the perfect spot or not playing things exactly the way he's supposed to, but he just makes things happen. And he got to blitz and kind of pin his ears back and go after Bryce Young a few times Saturday, and really was disruptive in that game and made some plays. So I think to your point, he definitely had one of his more noteworthy performances, and has been more restrained, I think, this year. Has not had the 15-yard penalties and things like that have hurt Tennessee at times this year. He seems to have taken a step in that regard and played with some maturity, and I think has been a pretty steady presence there for Tennessee in the middle of that defense, along with obviously an improved Aaron Beasley and Juwan Mitchell. That's a much improved linebacker group, I think, from a year ago when we were talking about that being Tennessee's biggest liability, maybe on defense. Now everybody's kind of looking at the secondary and saying, hey, those linebackers, they're not too bad now.
Okay. Listen, if we can just make one position group better each year, eventually it would be pretty darn good. So there you go. We've got the D lines shored up. Looks like the linebackers are good to go. Now it's just the DB's turn. And like you said, they got plenty of guys coming in to make some way in that. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this Tennessee program is certainly trending in the right direction. And after Saturday's win against Alabama, it certainly seems that it will continue trending in that direction for the foreseeable future. Ryan Callahan here of 24/7 Sports. And Ryan, were you at the game Saturday?
I was, I guess maybe thankfully out of the melee down there on the field. I was up above it in the press box when all that happened post game. Got to watch the craziness from afar, but yeah, I was there.
Where does it rank among atmospheres and just in games you've seen?
It would be hard for that not to be number one, just because of I think the celebration at the end and all that just sort of adds to the story. But it's hard for us to gauge. If you've been to that Neyland Stadium press box, it's enclosed, and that makes it so hard for us to gauge. But we were just discussing this earlier. Helps to signify to us when the crowd is at a different level. Is the press box was moving a little bit at times during that game Saturday, and that's only happened a few times in my years covering Tennessee. That 2015 Oklahoma game had its moments, so that crowd was pretty loud, and we remember it moving a little bit for that game. And there've been some other moments, but not so many sustained or games of sustained energy like that one was, and that one just seemed like it was on a different level. The people who were in the stands and on the field tell me that was the case. there's loud and there's whatever Saturday was, and so that was. I mean, definitely, if not number one, it was 1A or 1B. I've been at some games at Florida that were tough to top because it's an open air press box there, and there when that place is charged up, it's as good as it gets. But Tennessee, I'm telling you, that was a pretty great environment Saturday, and I've certainly never seen a post game celebration quite like that one. That was it was a rowdy place, and you could tell a lot of pent up frustration released in one night.
There you have it. Ryan, we appreciate your time as always. Looking forward to your coverage of the near future recruiting that Tennessee is certainly going to see. I got a feeling that recency bias is definitely going to play its factors in some recruiting for the Vols, and I'll take it. So.
It definitely might. I think Tennessee is probably going to have a nice little stretch here, and we'll see if the rest of their season can add to it.
We appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, that's going to do it for Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo, it's going to be a fun week. We've got a lot more to get to tomorrow. We will continue reacting to the rest of college football. We'll probably throw in some NFL in there as well. And who knows? It's going to be a great week, though. I've got some questions that I can't wait to get your thoughts on. So.
Okay. Well, I'll be here.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. But, we will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 2:00 right here. Main Street Sports, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. For Justin and Mo, I'm Chris. Have a great day.